Hi, and welcome to Small Steps, Big Results, Improving Your Website Without a Major Redesign, brought to you by Results Direct. I'm Cecilia Sadovich, Executive Vice President with Results Direct, and I'm so glad that you could join us today because we have some really good tips for you and a lot of case studies. So if you're not familiar with Results Direct, we've been around for 30 years now, which seems crazy to say. I've been with the company for 18 years. Um, and in all of that time, we focused exclusively on supporting associations and their member engagement. So two of the ways that we do that primarily is through websites and mobile apps. On the website side, we provide strategy, website design, content management systems, integrations with your AMS. We've worked with over 75 integration partners in the space. We also work with, we also provide, event apps and member apps. So while today we're talking about tips to improve your existing website, and we can certainly help you there, if you do find you have other needs, please keep us in mind for those things. We'd be happy to help you. A quick word on groups that we work with. We're so proud of the mission of all of these organizations that we work with. We have over 400, and obviously we couldn't show them all, while I'd love to. So these are just a handful, and we'll take you through some case studies today. So we'd love to see you up there someday if you're willing and able. So please do keep us in mind. With me today, so I'm not your presenter today. I'm just a host. I'll be funneling questions. Oh, please do put your questions through the Q&A so I can help feed that to Laura Graham and to Steve Russell. Both of them are just fantastic solutions consultants on our team. Laura primarily works with new and prospective customers coming in. And one of the things that I like best about Laura is that I don't think that she even has like a concept of we can't do something for this. Like there is always a solution for some kind of budget in your range that she can work with. And Steve is really, he works with our existing customers. He's very focused on data. He's like the results in Results Direct. So he's the one that's going to say, yep, here's what we did and here's what it did for you. So really excited to have both of them chatting with you today about things that you can do to enhance your existing websites. Laura?
Yes. So, Cecilia, that was such a great intro. And if we're talking about new nicknames, can I just throw out Steve Results Russell? Just,
Love it. I
testing
love
the
it.
waters, see what happens. Yeah, so we wanted to kick off today's webinar with a quick poll for those that are joining us today. And we want to know, how would you describe your current website based on the options that we've provided? So those options are, solid for now, but planning ahead. So, kind of getting some ideas here. Functional, but feels outdated, needs attention, but where do you start? And we're going to be talking a lot about that today. Also needs attention, but there's limited time and budget available to really what you feel make a big impact.
It's interesting to see where the results are going so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we're seeing functional but feels outdated at the top of the list with 38%. Um, Needs attention, but there's limited time and budget is coming in at a very close second. We also are seeing, solid for now, but planning ahead. And we're so glad that you're here with us today. So thank you guys for providing those responses. And that's going to be really helpful as we continue in today's webinar because, you know, no matter where your website falls in the spectrum, today's focus is on, how small changes can help you get better mileage out of your current website without a major redesign effort, or maybe even, help you prepare for a redesign down the road. So today we'll be talking about some of these small changes that can really offer big results for your association's website, like refreshing your website design. Notice I didn't say redesigning, but refreshing. And I think that's an important difference. Testing your site's usability, creating an analytics reporting dashboard, reviewing, refining, and retiring your content. Also consolidating your digital presence. So, let's get real. Let's start off on a serious note and address the elephant in the room. Right now, your association's website is more important than ever. Um, you know, we're in uncertain economic times, and your website's becoming more than just your digital presence. When budgets are tight and travel is being limited, like we're already seeing for some groups, and kind of the impact of the world right now. Members are really relying on your website to get value from their membership. And it's often still the first opportunity that you get to convey value to new users and prospective members. And you know what they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So if your site feels outdated or it's hard to navigate or doesn't work well on mobile, people notice, and unfortunately they might not stick around. So here's the good news. I always have a silver lining. Don't worry. You don't need to tear everything down and start from scratch to make an impact. Small updates can really make a big difference uh, to improve your bottom line and in how your audience perceives your brand. So, Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you because when we're talking about refreshing your website design, that can sound a little overwhelming and kind of sound like a redesign. Can you kind of talk through what these options are?
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be with us today. Refreshing your website design, like Laura said, can sound intimidating, but really, we want to focus on the word refresh there. And because updating and enhancing visual elements and features on the site can have a huge impact without changing the structural or the bones of the website, making it feel like you have to kind of make these giant wholesale changes. These are things that you can do over time with flexibility based on your timeline needs, what your team is able to accomplish, based on bandwidth and all of that. And this can include things like logo updates, branding updates, modernizing your style guide. And what we'll see with TMA in one of our examples here in one of the next slides is one of the big ones, and this is a tip you can take home with you today, replacing stock images with real people, real pictures, recognizable locations, and imagery from your industry. Like Laura mentioned with first impressions and how important your website is with engagement, having those real people coming to your website and seeing their face, seeing their colleagues' faces, seeing recognizable industry locations can have a huge impact just on how they feel ownership of the site as a member of your association, which is only going to help drive things like retention and member value. So when we look at the TMA design and the refresh we did for them, we focused on things like we said with the imagery, making things mobile friendly, focusing on that member engagement, what the members see when they come to the site, making sure that they understand it's their site. And with TMA, this included not just the imagery that we updated, but we also updated their navigation, which really improved their usability, which Laura's going to get to here in just a minute.
Yes, thanks so much, Steve. And so the Turnaround Management Association has around 10,000 members in 54 chapters across the globe. Um, and this group specifically heavily relies on networking and making those professional connections. That's where they're finding the value in their membership with TMA. So like Steve was talking about, a main priority when we were working on, updating their design was making sure that it was able to visually capture the TMA member experience. Incorporating those images of real members and videos of real members. So just like Steve said, when they come to that site, they see themselves. All right, so let's talk about usability testing, which is one of our favorite topics here at Results Direct, because, it won't matter how great your content is or how slick your design looks if users can't find what they need. So like you, and like all of us, when we're online and we're looking for information, we want quick access. Don't make us work any harder, right? And usability testing is all about seeing your website through your user's eyes. So it's helping to move past those internal assumptions and really understand how your members are interacting with your website. It's important to remember, and I suggest getting a little sticky note out for this part. I know that I like to keep one handy. So, what makes sense to you and your team internally doesn't always make sense for the people that your website is built for, your members. And your website should be working for them. Um, and small usability improvements can really lead to big gains in engagement, conversions, member satisfaction, and even staff efficiency. So, something to consider, think about, are you tracking how much time your staff is spending, responding to emails and calls from members that either can't find something on the website or are having issues in completing a transaction? Just, I say take some time and kind of get those numbers as a benchmark, because there's improvements waiting for you ahead. The most effective way to create a member first website experience is pretty simple. Ask your members, involve them in the process. Involving them in usability testing does two really powerful things. So one, it's going to remove those internal assumptions and department biases. And two, it's going to show your members that their voice matters in shaping what their website experience is all about. So at Results Direct, we use a data-informed approach to turn real member insights into meaningful website improvements. A few methods that we use with our clients that offer significant benefits are online card sorting, tree testing, and one-on-one user testing. And I would love to talk to anyone about these more, but I also don't want to bore everyone with all of the details because Steve and I both can go into a lot of detail on these topics here. These exercises will often uncover pretty big friction points that can lead to misconversions or member frustration and unnecessary calls to staff. So, most importantly, our usability testing methods aren't resource intensive for your staff, and the result of these tests is real actionable data that you can put into play right now. All right, so looking at one of our client examples, When we were working with the International Society for Heart and Lung Transplantation, their main goal was to reduce friction and improve findability based on feedback that they had already received from their members. So here we're looking at ISHLT's previous navigation. And I want to call out a few best practices to keep in mind for your own website's navigation. So we want to keep it simple. We want to use clear and descriptive labels. Being specific is good. Replacing vague terms like governance that you'll see here on their previous navigation with more familiar and straightforward language. So users should know exactly what to expect when they're clicking on navigation items. And when possible, try to incorporate some action-oriented labels. You also want to avoid acronyms and internal terminology. So spell out terms instead of using acronyms. Like you see here, ISHLT 2024. Instead of that, let's go with annual conference. Let's say what it is. Even frequent users may not know or remember what acronyms stand for. Plus, using those specific terms can really help your SEO. You're basically telling the search crawlers exactly what the page is being linked to. And you want to prioritize key user tasks. So organizing your navigation content around what users want to do and what actions do you want them to take. So please don't hijack the super valuable UX space, real estate, by incorporating your about page at the very front. So here's the after, and we love it. You'll notice that we have annual meeting there, ISHLT 2024, no longer. Their new navigation, which was informed and vetted through usability testing with their members, simply puts content where users said they'd go to find it. And the results have exceeded their expectations. We've seen increases in website engagement and staff efficiency due to a significant reduction in support calls and emails to staff. And interestingly, a large decrease in site search usage attributed to the more intuitive navigation structure. So additionally, through reducing these friction points that we identified and streamlining their website's UX, ISHLT has also experienced a 50% increase in their early membership renewal rates. So, Steve, we're talking a lot about success metrics today. Can you shed some light into how we work with associations to effectively track and report this data? Break it down for
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura. This is one of my favorite things to do when talking with associations about your data, right? I love looking into analytics data and helping you put the puzzle pieces together because Google Analytics 4 can be a daunting and complicated platform to understand and to read. So we really encourage you guys to collaborate with Results Direct to better understand and get the value out of your analytics. There's so much information in GA4 about your website, about how your members and users on your site are interacting with your website, with your content, with your association. And there's so much we can learn from that. So if you're not taking advantage of your Google Analytics 4 data, if you don't even have Google Analytics 4 data on your site, talk to us so we can help you with that, because it's one of the things that I love personally doing as far as learning the story about your members, the story about how your website is being used. And we're here to untangle your GA4 and get you on a clear reporting path. So we're all about data-informed decisions and data-informed design. And so the slide Laura has here up are a few examples of the Google Looker Studio And these are just a few pages from a few example reports that we've put together as far as creating dashboards for clients so that you can look at these kind of sample images, what we have here. These are examples of dashboards we've created. Instead of having to go into Google Analytics 4 proper, which is the big, heavy, complicated platform that Google provides, where you have to basically learn an entire new vocabulary about data and analytics to understand, well, how many page views does my blog have? And so we want to make that easier for you by presenting it in a easy to read chart, easy to read dashboard that I like to call the C-suite cheat sheet, so that we can put together these dashboards so that you don't have to feel like you need a data analytics degree to understand how people are using your website. There's value in knowing your data to better understand your members, to better drive member retention. This is how you can, and we'll talk about this in a moment when we talk about refining content, but understanding your data, understanding your website is really the first key to understanding what kind of content you need on the site. And we've talked so much about how to make all these decisions and what decisions to make to refresh your website, whether it's design or usability. This data that you're getting from the analytics, that's what's driving these decisions and kind of helping you to understand, well, do we need a smaller navigation? Do we need to do something? How is our search performing? So how can we decrease how often people are using search? And you can correlate that data with other hard data you have across the organization, like how many calls you're getting to support or stuff like that, so that you can really focus on getting as many of those resources on the site as easily as possible. And here we have another before and after of an example from one of our clients where we used data looking at what they needed from the navigation, what was the most important content on the homepage, and then you can see again in the after pictures of people representing what that industry and what the association is all about. Only saw increased engagement on the site. So when we focus on what the analytics is telling us and we couple that with what we know our members need and what their behaviors on the site are like, we can really drive eyeballs and attention to the content on the site that we know is most important, whether that's our annual meeting or resources, or like Laura mentioned, our early dues and early membership windows and opportunities to keep those moving forward and keep those top of mind for your members. Alrighty, so what do we do with all this data? What do we do with all this awesome information we have? This is how we start refining and reviewing our content. So once you've understood what you can about how your people are using your website and what the impacts of some of these refreshes might be, you can start to key in on, okay, how do we change the content on the site? How do we manipulate what is on the website so that people are finding and getting to the stuff that we need them to go, or that they need, right? So there's plenty of associations where the people are relying on resources from your site to do their day-to-day job. And so you want to make sure that those are all front and center. And so refining content, reviewing content, and really most importantly, maybe not most importantly, but very importantly, when to retire content. Because as our websites age and as we've been on the web longer and longer, we have so many pieces of content and all these awesome bits of data. But it's important to remember to go through and start removing stuff as well. So as we'll see here in some of these examples, one of the things that we go through when you're going through your content refinement is really understanding when to take something away. So we have this really cool flow chart that we use when we talk to clients about content strategy. And what this does is, it starts with what is your content item idea? And then you can use kind of this action flow chart to determine, is this content really worth putting on the website? Is it aligning with our strategic plan or with our mission purpose? Is it providing value to our key audiences? Does it reflect the positions of the organization? And is there a clear action or a clear next step after I've absorbed this piece of content? If you can answer yes to all those questions, you have an awesome thing on your hands. Put it on the website, get it in front of your members. And if you have to answer no to any of those questions, then there might be an opportunity to review and see, okay, how can we make this better? Obviously, not every piece of content on your website is going to fall into this category. Some stuff needs to be there, but the more you can apply these principles, the more you're going to be putting high value content on the website. And that's really one of the big values in taking off old website data or old outdated content, is that when people are searching for stuff on the site, everything that you have on your website is competing for that attention. So when you're taking away old stuff that isn't relevant anymore, or maybe is outdated by newer information, it's going to be easier for your members to find the stuff on the site that they're actually looking for, which means less calls to ask where stuff is, and less frustrated members, people getting the stuff that they need. So again, just another example here about how increased engagement from taking stuff away. This is one of our clients where they had, I mean, thousands and thousands of pieces of content, whether it's resource papers or reports and things to download. But they noticed a lot of that stuff was either outdated or has been replaced by other things, isn't relevant anymore. So instead of having a giant repository and library of, you know, content that isn't completely relevant, let's pare that down into just making sure that we're using and we're providing the content that the people need. And so again, this comes back to everything we've talked about, from usability to reviewing your analytics to looking at your design to really fine tune how you're serving content and making sure that what's on the website is the highest valuable stuff that your members need.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve. And I know you said thousands and thousands. I think we ended up removing over 10,000 pages from the APS website, and their engagement just went through the roof. So yeah, just to validate, what goes into those efforts is significant, but also beneficial, and such a great user experience. So now we're going to talk about consolidating your digital presence. And, let's be honest, most associations don't plan to have a fragmented digital presence. It just sometimes happens over time. And separate websites often start with good intentions. So maybe to support a new program, or serve a specific audience segment or department. Or sometimes it's just because one team had the budget and needed something fast. So over the years, though, those quick fixes can kind of turn into a big headache. So there's inconsistent branding, duplicate content, confusing user journeys across multiple URLs with inconsistent brand design and navigation, diluted SEO and brand authority, messy analytics. Steve, cover your ears. I know you hate to hear that. And that's just impossible to make any sense out of. And for staff, it means more maintenance, more platforms to manage, more time spent tracking down which version of a page is up to date. And, more budget being spent on keeping all of these different platforms running. So this is where consolidation becomes a game changer. One website means fewer updates, lower cost, and easier management. Also better SEO, because you're not splitting traffic across multiple websites. And most importantly, a better user experience for your members. It really does. It builds trust and it removes friction. It's one of the fastest ways to improve both your user experience and your SEO without doing a full website redesign. It really is a win-win. So if you're thinking, yes, this is us, I want to reassure you that you're not alone. And I want to share a quick example from one of our website clients who found themselves in a similar situation. So for USA Rice, the national advocate for the entire US rice industry, we helped them bring one of their standalone branded sites into the main USA Rice website, integrating it as a unified experience. And here's what happened. So they saw a major boost in SEO performance and increased engagement on the website. Their content became more relevant and visible, and they eliminated the brand confusion that was happening when their different sites were actually competing with each other in search results. So, as you think about your own website strategy, here's a question to ask. Is there an opportunity to consolidate and bring everything under one roof? Because doing so doesn't just improve SEO, It reinforces your brand, your story, shows the full scope of your mission and commitment to your industry, and makes it easier for your members and visitors to find and engage with you, which at the end of the day is the goal. So I think we are wrapping up now, but I know that we have some time for questions. So Cecilia, have any questions come in that we can address?
Oodles of questions for you.
Oodles. I love oodles. Okay.
I've actually been sitting here feeling guilty because like questions have been popping in and so, I'm glad to have this moment to reassure people like we will get to your questions. If there are additional questions, please put them in to the Q&A. But let's get started. So this actually I think goes back to usability testing, but it kind of fits into analytics as well. So the question was, how are you supposed to track the members' time completing an action on the website? And that question came in when showing the analytics for usability testing, and one of those graphs showed, the amount of time to complete that task. So, Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about that from a usability testing perspective? And then Steve, maybe do you want to talk about that from an ongoing, how would you measure that?
Absolutely, and great question. So the software that we work with for our online usability testing, which this would be the card sort and the tree test, we're presenting them with tasks to complete, to register for the annual meeting. And we're tracking their path to see, does this match with what we assume their path should be or would be. And that's the time that you're seeing is how long they're taking to select their path.
Great. And then Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know that these actions, especially something like registering for the annual meeting, that's often going to cross over, right? It's going to go from your website into your AMS generated pages. So can we track that? And what does that continue to kind of look like in the ongoing success of the website?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as Laura mentioned, the card sort and the tree test, that the graph we were looking at for the usability and tracking how long someone was on that task, that's part of the usability testing aspect of it. But once those changes are incorporated into the site, then we can use the analytics to see what is the impact of those changes, how effective are those changes, so we can look at, okay, how many people are visiting a registration page maybe on our website, and then we can look at things like exit pages and look at some different types of user behavior to see how many people ended up on a third-party website from that event page. That would indicate, oh, they went to the AMS hosted page, right? So we can piece together some bits of data in GA4 to kind of confirm whether or not those usability improvements are effective or not.
Great.
Yep. And also, I just want to add that one-on-one user testing is also a great way to kind of view and walk through this process with your members directly. And when we do that, it's usually one-on-one, and we have specific tasks to complete. And we're, like this, we're on a Zoom meeting, and we're watching them complete those tasks. So it could be something you do before and after, incorporating any big changes to your AMS or your website.
Definitely. And someone has asked, if they're not currently a Results Direct client, could we still work with them on these kinds of dashboards and cheat sheets and things like that? So the answer is definitely yes. But Laura, do you want to talk a little bit more about what would we need to know? What does that look like in terms of an effort in working with someone?
Yes, and I love that question, and I'm so excited that it was asked because we can absolutely work with you on any of the efforts that we have talked through today. And we want to see more associations doing this. So we want to be there to help you and partner with you on this. And I'm not sure who asked the question, but I will follow up, or please reach out to me. My contact information is right here. Let's talk more about what you're interested in doing, and we can put together a plan.
Awesome. And so there's been a question about AI and usability testing. So are we using AI at all to perform this usability testing? I mean, would you recommend that even? How are you approaching the usability testing? Because you mentioned some of the one-on-one on Zoom,
Mhm.
but does AI have a role in usability testing, do you think?
At at this point, for us, it does not. We are really getting that real raw data from your individual members, in order to, formulate the solution, or identify any pain points to put together our recommendations. But I'm interested in what's available. But I do see most of the benefit right now and making sure that we're connecting with your actual members.
Right. And then we have a question about retiring content. So, what's the best way to know what to remove when we literally have thousands of website pages?
So it's a great question, and it's always a tough place to start. But looking at your analytics and understanding, okay, what are people actually looking at? If you have thousands and thousands of pages of content, whether they're blog pages or resource pages, try to pare down and take a look at, well, does any of it have a year attached to it? Is there anything up here from 2012 still that maybe was updated in the last few years? So you can, look at your analytics, and you can sort things by page views, by engagement rates. There's different metrics in GA4, whether that's in GA4 itself or something we set up in a Looker Studio. But I would advise you looking at your analytics to see, okay, how often are things being interacted with? The content that's being interacted with on the site is obviously the stuff that you want to keep front and center, keep updated. But then when you're looking at stuff that maybe hasn't had a page view in 6 months to a year, don't throw it away right away. Take a look at it and see, oh, is there something wrong with this page? Do I need to update the title or maybe some kind of description on it? Always think retool before retire, but don't be afraid to retire the content. It's okay to let some of it go if it's older and there's newer versions of it. But that's the best way to start, is to look at your analytics and look at how often is something being engaged with, because that is the value of having it on the website, is for your members to be able to go find it and find it easily.
Yeah, and you'll probably be surprised to look and see that probably your top 100 pages are the majority of where the traffic is. I would be curious and seeing how, if that expands much further. Yeah, so taking a look at those top pages as well and prioritizing those. Yeah, good question.
All right. So next question is about the website refresh. It might be kind of tricky to answer because it's about budget. So maybe you could talk a little bit about things that would impact budget on a website refresh. And the specific question is a website refresh an expensive proposition? Can you provide a rough cost estimate? So I'm going to twist that a little bit into kind of what are some factors, that would impact that cost.
Sure. So we would want to look at, what platform your website is currently built in. And we'd also want to understand, our how we can best help with this. Is it providing the design assets to a third party, or are you looking for us to implement these changes as well? We work very well with others. We want to make sure that this is a good fit for you, and as possible, so that we can, help you be successful.
Excellent. And then one last question. So this one is about content management systems. Someone's website is currently on Sitefinity, which is one of the CMSs that we work in. But are there other platforms that we work in that we would also recommend. And then I'm adding on to this person's question, like how do you even decide which is the right platform for somebody?
Oh my gosh, I love this question so much. And we have actually really found recent requests from new clients and prospects where we're going into the strategy phase of a redesign or an initial effort, kind of CMS agnostic. So we're not going in with the CMS selected. We're allowing the strategy decisions, and what your team needs, what your members require, those kinds of specifications to really guide the CMS and technology decision.
Right. So sorry, questions just kind of keep coming in and I want to organize them, but we're just jumping all over the place here. So what do you see as, this one's design related. So what do you see as current best practice for a site's homepage? Visual versus text. So I remember back in the day, we used to be like, carousels, easy. Carousels are way out now. But are we still leaning more towards visual? Do you see text as a more critical component? And sorry, Steve, it looked like you wanted to jump in on that.
Yeah, I'll jump on this one real quick, and then Laura, you can chime in as well. It's not a good answer to say it depends, but your industry, your association can have an impact on that based on what your members are looking for. That homepage, like Laura mentioned before, you only get to make that first impression once. So having a homepage that works the way it should and has a big impact, whether that's a big image or a video up front, that's one of the most important things you can have. And then as far as text, action, I think, is the best and the most important stuff you could have as far as text, whether it's informative of, hey, here's a piece of information you need to have by coming to the homepage of our website, or hey, here's a piece of information that you need to go do on the homepage of our website. Those are the things that I would really focus on when you're looking at visual. It's not, because it's not really an either or, it's how you execute both. So for visual, you're going for impact. For text, you're going for action. That's what I would look at.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. It's taking into account what members are or new users are often coming to do, and also again what you want your members to do and what you want to make sure that your value is very present. But I also want to remind everyone that not everyone is entering through your homepage. So making sure that your value and your mission is evident throughout any page that they could land on or come to, and experience, your brand for the first time.
Excellent. And then this, I think this ties in well with what you had just mentioned, but it's specific to online communities, right? So someone can come into the website from any page, but the specific question is, do you have suggestions on how to better integrate an online community with the website? And kind of what are the integration points or things that you would look to do to incorporate that as part of the member experience on the website? Steve, do you want to tackle
Sure.
that first? I'm sure you've worked with a couple of groups that are doing that on their websites today.
Yeah, and we've worked with several organizations that have different types of online communities incorporated into their website, whether it's something that is based on the website itself, or is a kind of a portal into another online community that's industry based. But as far as integrating that on the website, it's really just about how obvious are you making that stuff on the site, is from a hey, here's where you go, here's how you find things, and making it easy to use. I think that's one of the things that people get tripped on with online communities. It's one of the great things that of our strengths from our organization is working with integrations and single sign-on, and making things easy and convenient to use, so that you log into the website and access in your online community. You're not logging into 14 different things every time and having to have 10 different tabs and pages open. We want to make that experience easy for you. So that's really the best way to drive engagement to your online community is, in my opinion, aside from having the people there and making content in it, is making it accessible. And so that's one of the things that we really focus on, is making sure that any integrations we add to the site or features we add to the site, we want to make sure that they're accessible to folks.
All right. Well, last question. And this is about drop-down menus and navigation options. So do you remember the days when like the mega menu was very popular, right? Are there any particular kind of navigation styles that you would recommend at this stage, that seem to be working better for the users through testing and what we've seen, removing that level of friction for them on the website? Laura, I see you nodding. What
Yes. So I was gonna add that keeping it as top level as possible. So having drop down menus, I think, is extremely helpful and very insightful to other offers and, value that you bring. But I think keeping it to, the main level and one additional level, when you expose too many options to people, it's kind of paralyzing, and then they're really not sure exactly where to go or what they're clicking on, what to expect. So keeping it as simple as possible, also avoiding any very long, uh, you know, those long navigation drop downs where you have to actually scroll in your browser to see the bottom of it. It's one of my pet peeves. I'm happy I'm not seeing those as much anymore. And also keeping mobile in mind. And that's, again, why we want to make sure that navigation stays pretty simple and clear and intuitive for the users.
Great. Well, so with that, we are going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Laura and Steve, for sharing your wisdom and experience and working on these sites and their takeaways. For anyone here, we'd love to talk with you as well and work with you on whatever challenges you might be experiencing on the site. So if anything here has piqued your interest, please do reach out to Laura to talk about what your needs are, what you've experienced, what you think your members are going through, and we can help design an approach that would work well for you, whether it's a refresh or usability testing or some combination of things, or analytics, right? If you too want a C-suite cheat sheet, which I have a hard time saying.
But it's such a great saying. I love it.
We'd love to chat with you. So thanks so much,
Absolutely.
everyone. Have a great day.